Hello and welcome to FTB Sports. This is the preview show for the game versus West Brom. Spurs West Brom tomorrow kicks off at 12 p.m. And I'm joined by my guest, as usual, Mike. Mike, how are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I said to Darius yesterday, I'm slowly recovering from the Chelsea game. Yeah,
Trauma.
hopefully Sunday's a better day for us Spurs fans.
Yeah, it was. I will hate to use words like traumatic because there's a lot more things in the world that are more traumatic than Spurs losing the game. But it felt like the end of the world in terms of going on Twitter, reading the comments. You know, you're looking at the fan base now is very much split between Jose in, Jose out. Myself personally, I don't think we should really be talking about manager change at this stage, although the performances are very concerning. And, you know, if it was to continue like that on that sort of vein, it just couldn't continue. Something would have to change. I'm hoping, from what I've read and all the rest of it, there's different reports about are the players playing for Jose. But no players come out and said anything to kind of contradict that. You know, sometimes you get these rumblings where people, in terms of players, do kind of like sideline talks and, say things that might kind of contradict what the manager's saying. I haven't heard any of that. And in fact, Lloris came out and pretty much said, they took heart from the second half performance, although it wasn't great. And they're going to obviously use that. It's about building confidence. The confidence is devoid. So again, how do you after a few days of post-traumatic stress, how did you assess that performance against Chelsea?
I think, like we mentioned, I mean, the first half was probably the worst I've seen us play, and that includes the Brighton game and that includes the Liverpool game. The first half of Chelsea, I don't think we can get any worse than that. Well, I certainly hope we can't get any worse than that. The second half, I did watch the highlights. I watched the highlights back on it, and the second half was better. But it's just that case of we didn't really come to life that much until the substitutions were made. And I go back to Lamela, and although he seems a bit of a hit and miss with a lot of the Tottenham fans, but what you can't take away from him is when he did come on, he was that driving factor behind sort of us trying to get something from the game, because he looked the player that was trying the hardest to get us back into the game. He looked lively. He had the odd shot as well. So you just hope that they can build from that second half performance, especially in the last 20 minutes. And you hope that they just start against West Brom and be like, look, enough's enough. Let's just get ourselves back on track now. You've had your three sort of games where we've just been diabolical. Let's cut this out now and let's get back to basics and sort ourselves out.
Just to say to everybody out there watching, if you can hear like a garden rake or hedge trimmer in the background, it's just somebody outside making some noise. But don't worry about it too much. Just a few comments here. Happy birthday, Sam Spurs. This is my birthday today, so happy birthday to me. Adam Morris is happy birthday, Sam. Don't worry, United will score some screamers for you this evening. I hope not. Crollo, are you guys now more concerned about performance or do results still come first? Very good question. Let me just go back to what you were saying about the Chelsea performance. I saw some highlights as well, but when you boil everything down to about a 5-minute highlight show, in terms of the chances, they were very even, because there was two shots on target from each team, although they showed a few more Chelsea close ones. There was that Werner one where Aurier came in for the challenge and it went over the bar. There was a Mount one that Lloris saved as well. But when you boil it down to a 5-minute highlight reel, it looked close. Obviously, in reality, when we watched the game for 90 minutes, it was not the best performance. And that coupled with the performances for the previous two games, Brighton and Liverpool, something's got to change. I really go on.
No, go on. You finish. Go on.
I was just thinking, it really is now down to the players. I say it's down to the players. What I mean by that is there's some players that we've obviously kind of said to ourselves in a number of shows that they're not good enough, and they are a hangover from the Poch era. That's right.
Yeah,
so when we look at the game on Chelsea, there was a lot of players within that team that are all kind of Poch based as such, and they, towards the end of Poch's reign, they kind of almost chucked the towel in. Now, I'm not saying the players have chucked the towel in at this moment in time, but can Jose really take all the blame for what's being done or what's being shown in terms of their defensive performance? Because we were having some of these defensive performances under Poch towards the end anyway. So I kind of step back sometimes after being very disappointed with the performances, but then think to myself, you know what? There might still be some things that need to be done within the whole setup. But what we can't afford, and this is what I think Crollo's alluding to, do performances or results come first? At this moment in time, results have to come first, because we can't
100%.
continue down the table or continue to drop points to teams that we shouldn't, particularly at home. I know that the home thing with regards to COVID is not really as apparent now, but you know, what's your thoughts on that? Performances or results?
I there's no point in having a great performance if you're not getting a good result out of it. So what's the point in playing like a world-class team if you're not getting the points that you'd expect would come with such a performance? So for me, result always comes first, because you can play poorly and pick up points, and you can build upon that. Whereas if you're playing like superbly and you're playing brilliant football, if you're not picking up the points, at some point you're going to be disheartened, because you're thinking, well, we're playing brilliantly, but we can't pick up points. What's the point in playing well? It kind of cancels it out. So for me, it's all about the points. I think anyone would take a poor performance if they're winning or picking up points than playing brilliantly and not getting anything from it. So,
as I mentioned earlier, the fan base is very much, and it's probably more against Jose now in terms of the football that they've seen, because we're not picking up the results. I think it was a lot of people who were able to palate that, stomach that, because the results were there at the early point. Now, because we've now got poor performances and poor results, it's a real hard one for Spurs fans. I would say against someone like West Brom, we're all expecting West Brom to be pummeled. We in normal situations, we expect a team that's in the bottom three, Spurs team with confidence, to go to, for West Brom to come to us, and really it should be a foregone conclusion. We all know that this season there's no foregone conclusion, but at the moment we're a bit devoid of confidence. The players, some of the players, as we talked about, aren't quite up to scratch. And is this an opportunity now for West Brom to kind of say, well, we don't need to sit back here, we can actually go for this team? And this is what I want to see. How do these players react to this? Because I'm not quite sure whether Sam Allardyce is going to park the bus and hope for bits of scratch, because I've seen a couple of their games and they seem to do both. They kind of, sometimes they might attack and they've scored a number of goals, and then sometimes they'll be very defensive. How do you see that in terms of West Brom's approach?
Do you know what? If I was West Brom, I would look at the Liverpool game and I'd look at the Brighton game and see why they were successful against us. And I put it down to the fact that those teams, not so much Liverpool, but certainly Brighton, they packed out the midfield and just swamped us. And if you look at how Brighton beat Liverpool, they did something very similar. They just packed out that midfield, and it's almost like they just swamped the opposition, smothered them, force the errors, and then they kind of do they have got a counter. They are counter-attacking in a lot of ways, but I mean they targeted Trent, didn't they? And they played off that weakness there. So if I was West Brom, that's probably what I would do. I would just swamp the midfield, and you could probably argue that our fullbacks, especially Aurea, he might get caught in possession or caught out of possession. Sorry, he might get caught out of position, and if he leaves that gap behind him, that could be where West Brom exploit us. So, and it is always on his side, at the right hand side, that we kind of always seem to concede from, or that's where the build up comes from, where we concede a goal. So you'd hope Mourinho notices that and understands that's our weakness, and nullifies that threat as such. But going forward, though, I mean, you could argue Aurier's put some when he's in the opposition's half and he's putting balls into the box. He puts some beautiful crosses in, and Vinicius should have scored against Chelsea. I think Moura, who was just behind him, I honestly think if he'd put his head on that ball, he would have put it in the back of the net, just because he was attacking it more so than the angle that Vinicius was trying to. But that's what I think. As I say, if I was West Brom, that's what I would do.
It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Before I get on to my next point for you, I'm just going to go through a few more comments. And just again to fans and people listening out there, although you might hear, hedges and things in the background, sirens, I'm not in Compton. It is just the fact that it's a bit busy out there. But I'm not sure what's going on. So again, apologies if you can hear a lot of background noise. Just a few more comments here. Mr. Silver Fox, good morning, Mr. Silver Fox. Big Sam will use this game to audition for Jose's job. Afternoon, fellas. These people. Mr. Silver Fox, out, and happy birthday, Sam. Thank you very much. Crollo, Mourinho is the Portuguese Sean Dyche. Again, Silver Fox is laughing at that. And then we've got another comment here from Crollo. I only say this because good performances will give Jose a bit of leeway and pressure will be lifted if we don't necessarily get the results we want in said games. Well, as we've talked about, and I think Jose even alluded to it in his press conference, he didn't even mention anything about a draw being a good result. He said it's a must win. He virtually said it's a must win. And I don't really hear him say that. He said he goes out to try and win all games, and obviously they'll accept how they play to get. This is now a must win. So I really honestly believe that the Spurs fans would rather see a result rather than a performance, unless of course there's the agenda with the Jose in or out sort of thing. There's fans that might think, right, he needs to lose this for the board to make decisions. My honest opinion is I don't think the board are going to make any decision on Jose until the season's done. And as I've mentioned a number of times, and I think you have said before, if the outcome of this season is to win a trophy, then we have to wait till the end of the season to see if Jose can achieve that. If he doesn't, then there's a problem. Yeah,
and why? I mean, for any talk for Jose to get sacked now, it is madness, because the chances are we're not going to find a replacement at this time of the season. And in that case, what would end up happening is we'd have an ex-player who's an inferior manager taking charge of us, and our season could go from bad to worse. So I say stick with Jose. He's experienced. He's been in the game long enough, and I'm sure he can probably. I'm sure he can get us out of this pickle that we're in.
Pickle. I like the way you put that. Pickle. I would have used a lot stronger words than pickle, but anyway,
I'm not going to swear online.
I know exactly what you mean. Right, so having watched Jose's press conference just a bit earlier today, obviously from yesterday, doesn't appear to be there's going to be any Ali or Reguilon or Lo Celso in the squad. He's flirting with this idea about Kane. He kind of, flirting with us to say, Kane will probably be the first one of that quartet to be back. I honestly don't want to see Kane tomorrow. Because of the fact that it appears that we are always rushing him back. I know he's our number one player. I know he is Mr. Tottenham. I know he's our top goal scorer, top assist, all the rest of that. But we've known this for a number of years now. It's not like it's just suddenly Kane's missing. What would we do now? This has been for 3 to 4 years of this continuous cycle, and Kane's always had these injury issues and has been out for a number of games per season. Vinicius, in my opinion, did well when he came on. When he played, I think he didn't have much to go off, and a lot of the Spurs fans were giving him grief because of that. A lot of the media were giving him grief because of that, but I didn't think he did too much.
What can he do about the service? Apart from one cross into the box from Aurier, which, to be fair, he should have hit the target. And I think that's the pressure game, isn't it? If you get that one chance, you expect your strikers to hit the back of the net. And if it was Kane, you'd probably put your house on that he's scoring that. But You can't criticise him. You're only as good as a service, surely.
Yeah, yeah.
I say I have no
So who
complaints.
do you see in the starting 11?
I think he's
different from first.
I think for me, Dyer's got to come out. Rodon's got to come back in, because apart from the Liverpool game where he made that mistake, which I'm sure you saw his reaction. He knew as soon as he made that mistake, he knew what he should have done. And I'm sure he's not going to make that mistake again. He'll just clear that ball and attack it and just get rid of it out the box, away from danger. So I'd like to see Rodon back in, and I want to see him partner Toby. That's the centre-back partnership for me, because
just
I think
on that,
Rodon...
Mike, then. Just on that, is this chopping and changing of the centre-backs, is that something that's going to give us confidence? Is that going to give the team confidence? Because they always talk about a set partnership in defence. Now, I know Dyer's been awful. I say awful. He's made significant mistakes in the games that he's played recently, and that, coupled with the results that we've had, means it appears a lot worse than it is. He has, for the most part, and I went back and started thinking about that. He has been quite dependable, apart from these real errors that he seems to make that really cost us. And you can go back through a number of games where Dyer is the one that's made the mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think Alderweireld's probably suffered because of that. So he kind of gets caught up in the whole whirlwind of not really playing well. But if you isolate it, it's been those major errors, glaring errors. You know, the one against Chelsea when he swiped at Werner, he did it twice. You know, I could see that when he was on the ground, he didn't swipe, and then he swiped again. It's like, oh, what are you doing? But you take that out of his game and get him to just focus on defending and being that leader that Jose really sees him as being. It might be that we have to ride through this with a set partnership at the back with Alderweireld and Dyer. I know Rodon's a good player, but what's your thoughts on that?
From my perspective, I think Dyer just needs... the only way I can see him getting... I mean, you could argue that the way to get out of bad habits and out of bad form maybe is to play through it. But we can't keep... The mistakes just can't keep happening. They're just too costly at the moment. And this is why I think if he wants... The only way Mourinho, I think, can get him to play sort of through this difficult period for him where he's making these mistakes, which just coincidentally may be costing us points, etc., is maybe just to play him in Europa games. So he's still playing and he gets to get out of this bad form and get these mistakes out of his system, which you'd like to think against lesser opposition in Europa might not be so costly for us. And then if he can build upon that, then fine, bring him back into the first team. But it's one of them. I just don't think the mistakes that he's got and the mistakes he's making, I just think it's too much of a risk in my eyes that I would feel comfortable in playing. But then you could argue that if he does play against West Brom, and he puts in a good performance and doesn't make any mistakes, then you might be like, well, has he turned a corner?
It's a confidence thing. It's definitely a confidence thing now, because having played football, I know you played football as well, coached football, managed football, obviously at lower levels, but it is all about confidence. If you're a good footballer, you're a good footballer. But when you're playing without confidence, you can appear to be a very bad footballer at times. Yeah. And this is what I think Dyer's going through. He's not a bad football player per se. Obviously, we could upgrade on the ability, the talent levels that we have in our centre back. That's a given. But at this moment in time, our defensive record suggests that we're not the worst in the division. Far from it. We're pretty high up in terms of goals conceded. But what's costing us is this, at this moment in time, the inability to play in a different way, to play on the front foot, to go up 1-2 goals. We have to score first. I think once we don't score first, it then seems there's a pattern to it. It's like we struggle. You know, we get to the last 10 minutes and then we kind of put in a bit of effort, which doesn't make sense to me. Who do you want to see in the starting 11? Who do you want to see?
Do you know what? Again, he divides opinion. But based on what I saw when he came on the second half, I think Lamela I think he probably deserves a start. I'd replace him for Bergwijn. I don't think it's not a case that I don't rate Bergwijn or I think he's been poor, but I think Lamela coming on, it almost breathed just a bit of life into the team from an attacking perspective, and I think he's lively. He does wind up defenders. He gets on their nerves. He can create stuff. And he's energetic. So I'd give Lamela a start. I don't think you can make too many changes at the back because obviously injuries. I know I mentioned Rodon. He'd be the only one that I would probably make for Dyer if there was to be a change in that back four. I don't want to see Sanchez in there because it's just swapping one mistake for another. I wouldn't be surprised if Sissoko didn't get a start and Winks came back in because Winks is better on the ball than Sissoko. And Sissoko, and that's another one actually, he looked scared against Chelsea. It looked like he was hiding from the ball. He didn't look like he wanted the ball to come to him. So if that's the case, then he can't be expecting to start against West Brom, and Winks should come back in. He hasn't played badly, to be fair to him. So why he should. Yeah, he should probably come back into the side, to be fair to him.
There's a lot of talk about the formation, if it's going to be a 4-2-3-1, whether or not Ndombele plays alongside Højbjerg, or it will be someone like Winks or Sissoko playing alongside Højbjerg. What I noticed, and we discussed this in the post-match reaction show, is that if you have Højbjerg and Sissoko in that two as a double pivot, they both drop back far too deep. If you used to play Ndombele with Højbjerg, you need to be able to make sure you've got enough players in the middle to be able to keep that ball better. And sometimes, as we've talked about, teams realise this and swamp the midfield. It could be that they play Højbjerg and Ndombele and then maybe play Lamela in that hole, because Lamela is giving us a lot of work rate, regardless of what we think about his ability and what we think of his end product and all the rest of it. He does give you that work rate. And that might be something just to kind of counteract anything that's happening in the midfield, to have him in there, just to break play up as well. And to maybe have Ndombele a little bit further back to pick the ball up and be able to do something more creatively from a deeper area. Or,
and I'm just throwing this out there, or you could keep on Ndombele alongside Højbjerg, and you could think about putting Bale in that number 10.
I'll take a deep breath for that one.
You have to take it would be a deep breath, but I think Bale, he needs to reinvent himself. I think the only way he's going to affect 100%. Games if he's involved in the game. He needs to be on the ball a lot. And I think, again, I can't remember what game it was against. Was it Brighton? I think it was Brighton, or it might have been the game before that.
Well, he started against Brighton. He had a was it Brighton? He started.
I think he started, didn't he? He came off at half time, but he looked like he was constantly looking for the ball, and to me, that almost suggests that the only way he's going to get as much of the ball that he's potentially might be wanting is if he was in that number 10 role, and he can switch from left to right to receive the ball and try and make things happen. I think he's got to reinvent himself. Being out on the right or being out on the left, he hasn't got the legs to go up and down the flanks. So I would try it. What's he got to do?
I think you're right. I really agree with you on that comment. Bale does, and that's a good point. He does need to reinvent himself. He's kind of, again, all the stories that come out in Spurs and from Jose suggests that they talk to Gareth Bale on a regular, and he sees himself still as this right-sided player, not left-sided, because he said he wants to play on the right to cut in and do all the rest of it. But we haven't seen enough of him getting the ball, firstly, but also the ability to track back. I think that's the most important thing from a Jose team, is somebody who's going to play in them wide areas, is almost going to be able to put in that defensive shift. Now, as a reinvention, Gareth Bale playing in that number 10 role doesn't have as much defensive responsibility. Not say he has none, but he has less. And he's an intelligent enough player. He's a talented enough player to be able to pick passes, to be able to pick the ball up in that 10 position and take shots at goal. One thing that Gareth Bale hasn't lost, in my opinion, is that wand of a left foot, as we keep talking about.
Oh, no. You never lose it. You never lose it.
in good positions, and I see Lamela do it against Chelsea. Took that shot just outside the 18-yard box, and it was a good save by Mendy.
Mm.
This is what I want to see Gareth Bale picking the ball up in those positions, maybe drifting past one player because you've got less of a defensive block to go through if you're in that 10 position, and maybe penetrating from there, having shots at goal. It is something definitely to think about. I'll just go to a couple more comments before we get into our Spurs predictions. Premier Hotspur TV, afternoon guys, how are we? A must-win game tomorrow. We've talked about our Premier Hotspur TV. It is a must-win game. Premier Hotspur TV in terms of a lineup: Hugo, Aurier, Toby, Rodon, Davies, Højbjerg, Tanguy, Dele, Bergwijn, Vinicius, and Son. Well, Dele isn't going to play. I would. The Davies one, we've talked about Davies. He's our only left back currently at the moment, but he does look a little bit tired. He looks like he just needs a bit of a rest. And he's a sort of player, he's a dependable player, but if he's not 100%, I say, energy levels and fitness levels, he's going to suffer because of it. He needs to be playing at 100 miles an hour in terms of that high level to compensate maybe for his lack of ability, which Reguilon does give us. So it might be, is there a case for Tanganga to come in at left back?
Maybe.
Possibly. Just a couple more comments here. So we've got Crollo, Hugo, Aurier, Toby, Rodon, Davis, Højbjerg, Winks, Tanganga, Bale, Vinicius, Son. That sort of seems like a more realistic approach, I think. I'm still concerned about Davis, obviously, from that team. Crollo again, this is Bale's last test for me. If he can't do a job against West Brom, it is officially over. So we've got some real comments here, some real divisive comments about Bale. I think that last comment is correct. If Bale can't shine against West Brom, I say that, but he has to be given the ball in the right areas. So
and he has to be given the opportunity to start and play. And I mean, if again, you're only as good as it is sometimes the case of if he's not receiving the ball, then we can't be expecting him to be pulling something out of the bag in terms of performance-wise. If he's getting a lot of the ball, then and we're on the front foot, then we can be expecting something from him, i.e., performance-wise. But he needs to be. I mean, again, we don't even know if he's going to start. But if he's starting, he needs to be given that opportunity. We can't write him off if he's coming on as a substitute, because I mean, Mourinho's substitutes are notoriously late on in the game, aren't they? So.
And Bale didn't even get a look in against Chelsea. And there's all there's various captions that show when Moore was coming on. There's a picture of Bale in the background, kind of holding his face like as to say what's going on here. But if he's showing enough in training, I think Jose would play him more. He can't be showing enough in training, and it's a bit of conflicting because it's really strange. He's a player that I think if you give 20 minutes to, he doesn't have to have 90 minutes in him. He can condense that into 20-minute cameo performance. And at the level that Gareth Bale's played at, I would expect he should, at 31, he's not 34, 35, he should be able to do that for us, surely.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it comes on. If he comes on in the second half and he's gone out wide, it depends on what it depends on the game itself, like what the scoreline is, etc. But I mean, if he's going to come on in the second half, for him to be able to get onto the ball as much as he probably wants, again, I still think he needs to be more central and behind the striker as such. But I don't know, it's a weird one. I mean, I can see him starting because I don't think Bergwijn had the greatest of games. And again, this might boil down to fatigue, etc., because we're not really able to rotate at the moment because we've got too many creative type players sat on the treatment table, haven't we? So I thought Ali might have been fit for this game, but it's disappointing to see that he's still not quite there.
Sorry, Mike, you might see me smiling. I think you know why I'm smiling. You probably can see the same thing I can see. But I'll read out a couple more comments. With Bale now, he hasn't got the legs. So for me, play him in a number 9 role because you can lose your fitness but never lose the ability to score, guys, I guess is what you're saying. This is what I was smiling at. And I shouldn't really smile because there's no reason for me to do that. But we've got people watching the game And this is why we should be wrapping up soon, because I want to see this, because this could be interesting. 1-0 to the Villa. Go on, Villa against the Arsenal. Crollo again, laughing. 1-0 to the Villa. So the game must be only 5 minutes in.
One player who I'm sure every single football supporter or football fan in this country would love to have is Jack Grealish in their team.
We missed a massive trick with him. Massive trick with that player.
Huge.
It's now, when you look back, because I remember that saga around about 2017-ish.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, yeah, he's a good player. I like him. But he obviously wasn't at the level he's showing now. But the money that they were trying to get him for, Villa wanted, I think it was 25 mil, and Spurs didn't want to go to that level. Now you think about what 25 mil, having invested in him then, what that player, I personally think he's levels above what we have in England in terms of talent. I know we've got a lot of talent in players, but just in terms of what he can bring on his own, he's just levels above. But it'd be interesting to see. So let's go to our final part of our show. The most important part, I guess, from our sanity perspective. We use our heart. Do we use our heads? I'll let you go first. What's your score predictions for the game tomorrow?
Oh, this is a tough one. Normally you'd be like, this is West Brom, we're going to spank them and it's going to be an easy, well, it'd be an easy afternoon, or you'd like to think it's an easy afternoon. But is Ali definitely out tomorrow?
Yes.
I'm going to go... again, it depends on who's going to play at centre-back. I don't like this. Okay, I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs. And I'm going with the fact we might consider, well, the goal conceding. It really does depend on who partners, and I'm hoping Toby does play tomorrow. If Rodon plays, I hope and I think we'll keep a clean sheet. If he's not playing, then yeah, I can see us conceding a goal. But I'm going with my head. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs.
So again, I'm just looking at some of the facts at hand. So we scored 1 goal in the last 3 Premier League games. I think we've only had 5 shots on target.
You're not putting me confidence.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to build myself up to the reasons why I think we can still get a victory tomorrow. The fact that Son hasn't scored, I think it's for the last 5 games in terms of the league. I think his last game was against Leeds, which was back in early part of January. So he's due a goal. I'll just go to a couple of these comments here before I go into my score prediction. What a signing Watkins is for Villa, guys, and I agree. Jack Grealish is class. Crollo's saying in terms of a score prediction, he's going 2-1 Spurs. So going back to me, saying all of that, I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think we don't seem to be able to do that. Our defense has got errors in there, and I just think with a Sam Allardyce team, they're going to put you under pressure somehow, whether that's aerially, whether that's, just putting numbers into midfield. They are going to put us under pressure, and I think we probably score. However, they're not at the bottom or in the bottom 3 for no reason. They obviously concede goals. Sam Allardyce has said previously that he builds it around defense. If you don't concede goals, you don't necessarily lose game, which is true. But they need to win. So I can see it being a very cagey affair, but they at some point will have to open themselves up, whether they from the start or whether that's partway through the game. And it should give us opportunities to score. I think they will score, but I think we will do. And I'm going to go with the prediction that Crollo's given. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs on this one. It has a must win. So even if we're losing this game, even if it's 1-1 with 15 minutes to go, I think they're going to have to throw everything at this game to get the result. And I don't think there's anything else other than 3 points that's going to keep the fans quiet.
It's a good opportunity for Spurs to get back on track. It's a good opportunity for us. I mean, it'd be a great opportunity for us to keep a clean sheet again. It would be. Whether that happens, as I say, that's why I think 2-1 myself. But it would be a good opportunity to keep a clean sheet. It would be a good opportunity to put in a good performance. And there should be no reason, even though like Lo Celso, Reggie, Kane, Ali are all missing. We should still have enough in our locker to put West Brom to bed. I know, as I say, we haven't been great, but you'd hope this is an ideal opportunity to put things right. Let's put it that way.
Players' pride should come into this factor.
Yeah.
We've lost the last 3 league games. We've lost the last 2 league games at home. We can't lose a third one. It would be unforgivable. I don't think our record in the recent future. So it goes back to 2012, the last time we lost 3 league games on the trot, and that was an AVB team. So Jose, just in terms of his own pride, I don't think he can allow this, and I don't think he can allow the players to get away with not performing to enough level to get something out results-wise. I don't expect us to be playing like Manchester City tomorrow, but I do expect us to put better combinations together in terms of building through the thirds. And if we are going to play long, play the right pieces in that jigsaw to be able to do that. Mix the games up, but make sure we apply as much aggression, as much pressure as they do. If we can match at least what West Brom do, our talent alone should come through. But it's the confidence aspect of it that if we go a goal down, how does that affect the confidence?
Yeah. And we've got to give Vinicius a fighting chance. So, like, give him some service, so at least we can actually make a fair and sort of like a fair opinion and judgment called on him as a player and as a replacement for Kane, because he needs the service to see what we need to be able to see what he can do. Mourinho needs to see what he can do in the game. So we need to give him that service. And I think personally, if he gets the right service, he'll put the ball in the back of the net. I don't doubt that. I honestly think he's got it in his locker. He just needs the opportunities.
Yeah. Just a final comment before we end the show. Crollo saying, if Jose doesn't win this game, I'll have to take matters into my own hands. I think there'll be a number of fans in the queue to do that. So I don't think it'll be just you, Crollo. I'm not quite at that getting Jose, taken out, concrete boots and all that quite yet. However, he's pushing his luck if we don't beat West Brom tomorrow. He really is pushing me to my limit. But I'm going to stay firm. I'm going to stay calm. So 2-1, I'm saying. What are you saying again? What's your predictions again on that?
I said 2-1 as well.
We're both saying 2-1. Right. All you fans out there watching, thank you very much for watching. This is FTB Sports, the Tottenham Hotspur preview show. Like, subscribe, share, comment. The road to 500. We want to get to 500 subscribers. Then we'll be doing a draw to win a free football shirt of your choice. Mike, thank you very much. I like the wide screen. It's lovely. The background's good as well. I like the changes. I'll see you tomorrow, 2 o'clock-ish. Hopefully, as we said, hopefully to be at least a little happier than we have been for the last week.
Yeah. Let's
hope
for a good afternoon tomorrow.
Let's hope so. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate.